Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order, the meeting of the Bike and Run Plan Advisory Committee. It's 3:01. And would somebody like to call the roll?
Mike Kammerer.
Present.
Terry Witt.
Here.
Joe Stacy.
Here.
Bruce Hendricks.
Here.
Dan Palmer.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. That being said, has everyone had a chance to go over the previous minutes of the September 29th meeting of 2016?
Yes.
Do you have any questions or clarifications for those minutes?
Not a question on the minutes, but a question on the publication of the minutes. Do the minutes not get posted to the village website until after we've approved them?
Yes.
Okay, so...
Tomorrow morning, I will send it over to Lorna, or to Gaby to put in.
Okay, so there's like a 5-month delay for anybody in the village who wants to know what's going on in our...
I think access for them. We can give them the meeting.
Okay.
Like if you want them ahead of time or something. we could
No, I mean, I'm just thinking, trying to keep residents up to date with what's going on,
Normally, on every meeting, they're not posted until they have been approved by the board.
I don't know. It would seem to me that maybe we could post draft minutes right after the meeting.
I think they will be posted at these meetings. The previous...
No, I mean, the minutes for this meeting won't get posted until April sometime.
when we meet again.
My only thought on that was, it's not often you see corrections, but I had one that was in intent of the question, and it could be misread in a draft form if it's not corrected. So that would misinform rather than inform.
Yeah.
That's my only observation.
Okay. It's just worth a comment.
Okay. Well, have you had enough discussion on the minutes, Terry? If you have, then just as a point, too, it was only 3.5 months, not 5 months. But nonetheless, we will then, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion's been made by Joe Stacy and seconded by Dan Palmer. Can we call the roll again?
Terry Witt.
Yes.
Joe Stacy.
Yes.
Bruce Hendricks. Yes. Dan Palmer.
Yes.
Mike Kammerer.
Yes. Okay, then those minutes of the meeting minutes will be recorded and put out to the website then, correct? Okay. All right, next thing on the agenda is this discussion of the Zagster Bike Share Program, which I know very little about, but I'm sure our staff has lots to say. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Jim Plonzinski went to a DuPage Mayors and Managers meeting, and Zagster Bike Share did a little presentation there talking about how some local communities are starting to do bike share programs, kind of like what you see in the city, but obviously at a smaller scale. Itasca is the nearest city to us that's starting to implement this program. So we had a conference, Angela, myself, and Jim sat in on a conference call with them just to kind of get more information about actual costs and things like that. So the purpose for bike share in a community like this is more recreational as opposed to using it as transportation to get back and forth to your workplace. Just due to the fact we're in the suburbs, there are a lot of gaps in the bike path system. So we were kind of looking at that and thinking it was a unique idea. The cost is about $1,800 per bike. Some places have partnered with different businesses and organizations to help offset the cost. Jim did include this in his proposed budget for our department. We were hoping that the Park District might be interested in going in on this with the village. They have declined to do that at this time. So we're just kind of bringing up the possibility, just starting to plant the idea of possibly bringing bike share into Bartlett. We were thinking possible locations would be like at the state park and at some of the places, some of the nodes of the regional trails that go through Bartlett. So it's just kind of a starting point. They do have a feasibility survey that's online that we could look in to see if this is something that we want to do possibly in the future. But just trying to start thinking about bike sharing opportunities on a smaller scale, because that's not really something that you really hear about. It's more, you hear divvy, which is in large cities. So Zagster's focused more on small suburban communities. So we've talked about maybe in the future partnering maybe with Hanover Park or someone else that we're connected to, so that there could be stations in various locations.
Is there a fee for the feasibility study?
No,
You just go online and do it?
correct.
And what kind of information does the feasibility study give you? Do you know?
It's kind of asking you, like, what locations do you have access to on your system? What kind of riders do you think you're going to have? What would the destinations be? What the distances are between destinations, information like that.
Is there a minimum number of bikes if you wanted to start with 3 bikes or 5 bikes or?
I think the minimum was, I think they did 5 bikes per station.
There's no minimum, but they suggest to start with 5.
Certain number of bikes to start out? I think it might even be workable at the park if you had bikes here it's an application, right? You have to have an application on your phone and you charge the bike to your phone. My son lives in Chicago. He does the Diddy, and it works for him down there. It's a pretty slick system. I guess the other concern, two-part thing, was that Greg Anderson has a bike shop in town. I don't know if he'd be up for rental bikes in town. I don't think he'd like to sell a few bikes rather than rent bikes.
One thing they do is actually they provide the service, so obviously they provide us the bikes, but they actually contract with local contractors if any of the bikes need to be fixed. So they would probably obviously work with them to fix any bikes that are in our town. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing, a little more information on it. I mean, I actually work in the city, and I actually do use the divvy system. Actually, I divvied today before I came here because I had to go get my car at a service station in half a mile instead of walking. I just divvied in a suit. And one of the things down there that becomes a problem is there's a lot of bikes, but like sometimes you can get to a station and there's no slots for me to put my bike. And so in the mornings by the train station, it's more of a problem because there's a lot of people, or in the evenings in the train station. So I would wonder how they service that. So Divvy actually moves bikes around. They have a sophisticated system where they can tell if a rack is full, and they'll bring a truck there and they'll take bikes away and bring them to another area. Or if there's no bikes, they'll bring bikes there. So I'm just wondering how this would work. I mean, so if you have 5 bikes in a rack, is there 5 extra slots? And what happens if it's a popular day and everyone wants to go to that rack and there's no spots, then they can't put their bike there? I mean, that's sometimes a problem with Divvy, but they have a system for, can't imagine this one has something like that, but it's just something to think about.
Yeah, we can look into that for sure.
Right, my son said that there's a way, he's gone to a full rack, and you can go to the control station, the Divvy thing, and you say, somehow you communicate with it, the rack is full, then they give you a free 10 minutes to pump it to the next.
Yeah, well, but for someone like going to the train, and my
Right,
train
you
might
gotta
be in
get
10
out.
minutes, I'm going to miss the train, and I'm not
gotta
real
get out.
happy. So, I mean, that has happened, and they're working around it, and they've got a sophisticated system, and so they do these concierge services and stuff. So just something to think about.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised they'd go with such a small number. That's not nice. Where did you envision using them?
We kind of looked at the state park,
Park?
so that people could connect to the prairie path.
Okay.
So I think with Zagster, they're mainly looking at you're returning your bike to the same place you've gotten it from.
Yeah.
What kind of time frame? Because obviously
They just-
30 minutes in the city works, but not so much here.
Right. So what they said in a lot of towns is the first hour is free. And then that you pay a certain amount, the village would set what that amount is. Is it $2 an hour, $3 an hour?
So it's not going to pay for itself. It's basically
Correct.
a convenience and a benefit. And that.
Right.
Correct. If you're thinking about the state park, then you would think about Pine Creek Farm and the Forest Preserve. And so I think it's coming. It's going to be part of our future, but as more towns and other organizations also put in stations, now there's a reason to go from point A to point B and an easy way to do it.
Right.
So I mean, it's coming. Maybe a little early yet for us, but
Right. Right, so we just want to kind of start the conversation
Yeah,
on it.
yeah, no, that's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea to look into, and State Park would be a perfect test for it. I mean, because we actually, I run, and even Saturday, we drove out to the State Park, parked our cars, we run on the path, but I mean, people could get on a bike, and that's a great trail system through there, and it could be a good place to try it, maybe down by the pool and in that area. There's not a lot of, other than the bike cost, if we can get some businesses to support it.
What's their experience with vandalism in smaller towns?
They didn't mention that.
They didn't mention it, but they kind of reiterated that they're still responsible for the bikes, so that's pretty much what we're paying for. So they have had a few bikes stolen before, but that's kind of fit in with the fee, because it's actually an annual fee that the village would be paying. We can get more information and a little more
Just
money
if you
to
had it, more curious than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth looking at it. If they're the same kind of bikes as Divvy, I mean, like I said, I ride them a lot, and they're usually in working order, and there's usually not any problems with them, and so it's definitely something to look at.
We'll look in for a little more or we'll get more information for the next meeting then.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Any other questions by the committee? If not, we'll then go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is reviewing the bike pedestrian ownership and maintenance maps, which looked great. Nice to see that. And why don't we turn that over to staff again to make comments?
Unfortunately, Tyler, who put these together, was unable to attend today, so I will cover for him. We've got 4 maps, I think, here. The first one shows the bike path owner. We met with the Park District and Forest Preserve and kind of have gone through trying to color code ownership of the various paths throughout town. We believe this is up to date at this point. We tried to make as many corrections as we did through the meetings. The second page, which is on the back of the first one, is basically it just gives the widths of the paths, to give you an idea of how wide the various paths are throughout town. And then we've got a plowing map. Those are the paths by jurisdiction that do plowing. Most of the places, like the village and Park District, when we've met with them, plowing of the paths is kind of, we deal with our main stuff first, and then as time allows, we get to the paths. And then the last one is the mowing, which would be along the paths, who does the various mowings along those. What we're working on now is kind of a bike path rating system of our network, in particular the ones that the village has to maintain and the Park District, because we're working with them. They'll be similar to what we do on our roads. We go through and give a rating kind of 1 through 10, 10 being brand new, 1 being badly in need of repair. So we're going through and trying to rank all the paths so that we can put a long-term program for maintenance. So hopefully that one will be coming out shortly.
Said Tyler put this together?
Tyler, yep.
Tell him.
Well, with the help of our GIS people.
Great job. I worked here for 31 years and knew most of it just from learning, but there's still stuff here that I was unaware of.
Yeah, it's helpful when people call and say, hey, I'm on this path, there's an issue. We can look and say, okay, whose is it? Because it's always been a question on whose path is who.
Seems like the Park District goes a little beyond what they would need to on some of these, even IDNR too.
Well, we have agreements with the Park District to
To
take
do that?
care of- Yeah.
Okay.
So what you're saying on the plowing section of it, because it's obviously this is the time of year and I run, so I'm on these paths. The village, obviously, you're not going to be plowing bike paths when you need streets to be plowed. Obviously, that makes common sense. But the Park District doesn't have any plowing responsibilities other than the path. Is that correct?
They have all their parking lots at their
in
various
the parking
facilities.
lots.
So they make sure they get all that stuff cleared
Okay.
for especially the main facility. And then once they get all that stuff done, then they would start to,
Okay.
that's what they explained to us anyway.
I mean, I just know through personal use, there's a stretch here that I was always wondering who'd covered it because it's never really plowed. And it's the one actually right by Jewel on Stearns and Bartlett Road. So that whole section going from Stearns, I mean, I'm only running, what direction is that? South, until you get to the townhomes there, behind Jewel, south of Jewel. Does everyone follow that? Mm-hmm. That path is almost never plowed. And then when you get to the townhomes, which this indicates that it's still the Park District, it's plowed. So the townhomes must plow those. And then it seems like the rest of that path is plowed. But that one section by Jewel, it's almost like they must assume that Jewel takes care of that or the gas station, and it's not. I mean, pretty consistently. So I don't know if anyone could look into that and maybe just
We can take a look at
on
that.
the
We can
radar.
Talk to the Park District.
Otherwise, I mean, I think they do a great job. Otherwise, I mean, the main paths, the blue paths, the main path that goes between like Devon and Stearns, they're out on that thing early, and it's good. I would tell you, Bartlett's an active community. I mean, I'm out there a lot, and there's a lot of bikers, there's a lot of walkers, there's a lot of runners. It's a really active community, so it's really important. And I'm glad I know this took a lot of time for you all to put this together, but it's really nice to be able to see this, and I think we can improve the paths because they are used.
Who looks at the gaps on these things? Obviously on a side street, not so big a deal, but on some of the busier roads, say West Bartlett Road, for instance, where
Plowing or to put in a new trail?
to make it connectable at some point, is there a sidewalk there? I'm not asking you to find this out, but would there be a sidewalk there? I've been on some trails where I've had to get from a quarter mile, and I was on Lake Street in Addison. I didn't want to be on Lake Street in Addison, that kind of thing. Is that the kind of stuff you look at?
Yes, we actually have another map that's kind of color-coded as well that shows the ownership and then our proposed as well. So maybe we can bring that back next month so you can kind of see where we're looking to fill in the gaps. Unfortunately, sidewalks you're legally not supposed to ride on, so we don't show those on our map.
Right. And I can look and know that some of them have them, but the others,
Right.
I've lived here for forever, and I just don't remember.
Yeah. So then we can bring that other map back so you can make sure that we're filling the gaps that you feel are appropriate
Okay.
on our plan, or we could, look at revising the plan to include new paths as well.
So you're kind of referencing like this on this section here.
More on the west side of 59, because that's where you have more open roads, larger trucks, higher speeds.
Well, and it does strike me as, even though we have so much bike paths, it is certainly still fragmented.
Right.
And I'm sure that part of this, I look at this and think, boy, I thought this whole thing from,
And
It does.
that
I don't
is
know
can
why
look
that's
at
not
and say
showing
probably
up.
it's-
There is bike path
Where are we talking about?
on West Bartlett
this
Road.
gap right there.
There is bike path there. I don't know why
There
that's.
isn't actually. So that's what
It's
started this.
sidewalks, I think.
It's not, no, where you're seeing this whole gap here, this white gap here?
No, before.
No, on the
There
east
is-
side.
That is
This
bike
one
path.
here.
Oh, there.
It does, on the ownership map or the
Yeah.
path width, it shows it on the back
Yeah.
one that it goes
Yeah.
all the way.
I don't know why it's missing that.
It's just a missing,
So that's like along Clear Oaks there?
Yes,
it's just a
there is
missing
bike path there.
segment.
Yeah.
Now, how about West Bartlett between
It exists.
Spitzer and
Sorry.
the railroad track?
That's the section I'm talking about. So this started this discussion why we talked about getting this map, and we had asked about that, and it's because it's technically Elgin or
Some of it's unincorporated,
Yeah, south side.
some is Elgin. So Elgin does have it on their bike path plan to put a connection there.
Yeah.
When it develops.
When it
There was
develops.
a concept plan years ago.
which
that
is
had
what we
that.
talked about. And then you also have the train crossing, and then you also have the electric lines there and stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, in theory, what's nice though, Dan, is, now with the new path going out there all the way along there until there, it's a small section to have to just get on the road and get, you pedal fast or run fast and get back on the trail. So it's nice that they added that other trail. It's made it much nicer. So.
Very little on Stearns. I've been on Stearns a couple times. I bet you didn't know it's uphill both ways.
But ultimately, wouldn't that be nice if we were able to connect from 59 all the way out to, connect up what we can see for the village-owned paths. If we were able to connect it up, we'd have a big loop at least. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of the
Long-range plan.
yeah. It's got to be, because that whole feeling of disconnection for the west side of town.
Which we're going to, have Dan just mention about some of our potential finances later on in the meeting, so that I've been talking.
I have one more question on the paths. That section right along there, right before that spot on West Bartlett Road, that's in red lined. Is that, I can't tell if that's red or purple. Is that IDNR?
Which map are you looking at?
I'm sorry, the bike path map. It said like that bird sanctuary or, Bartlett Road and Naperville Road south.
That's actually was done by the developer, so that's.
I think the Park District gets that eventually.
That's what we.
That may happen.
Okay.
That's I hear anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it seems like they visibly have now posted signs, no trespassing, property owner. I mean, it didn't used to have that, because I used to go back there and fish by the fire station over there. There's signs all along that property, no trespassing, property owner, and for whatever that's worth.
I wasn't aware they had posted the signs, but.
No, it is private.
But it is technically private it is technically private property.
Okay.
At this point.
Who owns it?
Elmhurst Chicago Stone.
Oh, they do. Okay.
I think that, you're talking about on Spitzer? That we actually had them put those signs up because people are fly dumping back there.
Oh.
So drastically. I mean, there's everything back there.
Yeah, if you go way down there, but I mean, even just
He's right behind
even along Bartlett Road and along Naperville Road there, now they have signs, no trespassing. I mean, so like it would, and there's paths there for walking and birds back there, and you could fish, technically, but clearly they don't want anyone there.
I could take a look at that and see.
It might be while they're in talks. The two parties are in talks that they've decided to do that.
It was not there before.
Okay. I'll take a look.
I don't know how long it's been there, but it's noticeably different.
Well, I know that the village has a pretty good relationship with Elmhurst Stone.
Right.
And we could certainly talk to people affiliated with Elmhurst Stone.
Yeah.
And,
Just look at it. I mean, it's a beautiful area back there. There's lots of birds, and there's there's fish in that lake back there, and no one would want anyone to dump. I mean, we wouldn't want that anywhere.
Liability of some sort that they
There
don't
might be.
people on.
Yeah.
But as far as having a section without a bike path, if that's where Elmhurst Stone is at, even though it's unincorporated, I think that could certainly be a possibility for a long-range plan, and to talk to the people affiliated with Elmhurst Stone. Well, anything else?
Will these maps be posted on the website?
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah, it was really nice. Thank you.
And there will be an interactive map where you can click on a segment and then it tells you all the information. So you click on it, it'll say owned by, maintained by, plowed by, and all that, and how wide it is, so that you have all the information.
That's great. This is really nice. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, very good. I'll have to tell Tyler and you folks, great job here again. Mention of it at the board meeting, if I can remember. All right, well, moving on, unless the committee has other questions for staff concerning the maps, then we're going to move on to the next point on our agenda, which is the 2017 Kickstand Classic Bike Race. If we call it a race, I guess it is. But would staff like to make comments on that? Do you have any comments? How are we moving along with the negotiation with that pretty well?
Yeah, we've actually already picked a date. It's going to be in October 1st, which is the first
When was it this
Sunday.
past year? When did we do it?
It was
the end of
September
September.
27th or 25th.
It's 25th or 26th,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Is it
think it's a week
little
later.
later for a reason? Are we?
Yeah, due to different events that they have, and then we also have.
I suggested when I saw how successful it was, that maybe you get a little bit later start and you could kind of wrap festival, bands, food, et cetera with it. Maybe people come that aren't even necessarily biking but are with bikers. Make it a little larger event. I don't know if that translated its way to that suggestion, but that was actually something I'd come up with.
Originally, they were thinking maybe some food trucks or something at one time, but
Yeah, we're still very early
yeah,
discussion.
everything is just being talked.
We're lucky we got the date already somehow. So.
Yeah. Yeah, because there were a few dates we were looking at. Park District had some conflicts with sporting events that are already scheduled. So it was kind of it was tough just to come up with a date. So we're happy with that. And we haven't started like the team meetings yet.
It's same weekend-ish, isn't it? Because I
A
think
week
It's
later.
a week later.
Yeah.
a day
Which
or
the
two.
weather should still be good, I would think. You know,
Right.
Part of
Yeah.
October. You never know, but you'd hope it would be.
Because the other date they were looking at would have been earlier, and then our police department and fire department were concerned about what the weather being, having the temperature way too hot. So they figured October would still probably work weather-wise.
Yeah, and in the villages, actually, we've talked about trying to do another event for the village, potentially in October, like an Oktoberfest-ish type event. We already have Heritage Days and things going on, but who knows? You might be able to tie things together and have, who knows, affiliated with it. But good.
So that's a for sure date? They've agreed to it and going forward?
As far as we know,
Yeah.
yes.
Once again, October what?
October 1st.
October 1st.
Can the vendors come, local vendors, like, it's kind of a, rather than, request vendors from other communities? Make sure we get our people, Bartlett.
We actually tried extremely hard to get Bartlett vendors. A lot of them didn't want to participate. Being the first time, obviously, you don't know if it's worth your time and money to go out and do these type of events. So I'm hopeful that this year, because they'll see that how last year worked,
Yeah.
that they will be out here this year.
Because a lot of the stores weren't open that, people were wanting to eat right there in the main stretch there. I think they
We actually walked door to door to all of them and told them how important it is. Delicious actually opened up early for us for coffee. I think it's 7 a.m. and then they started serving food at their normal time. So a lot of them did try to take advantage. I think the liquor store had, pulled out some signs and said they were doing samplings that day or something. So
Shot before you.
right, yeah. So we we did try to talk to a lot of them and tell them there will be a lot of people right
I
here.
don't recall, did you have a bicycle check last year?
We did.
Did we have what?
Bicycle check.
So you can check your bike and go eat or drink or.
And who ran the bike tune-up? They had a little tune-up tent there. That was Active Transportation Alliance, so they're guys that wasn't like Spin Doctor?
There are actually two different companies, one that was here and then one that was at the halfway point. I do not believe Spin Doctors,
That happened to be Greg's anniversary weekend, and he
Yeah.
was already had.
they were booked. We asked them too, but they were already
Yeah.
booked, that weekend. So we obviously tried to go local for everything as
Right.
much as we could.
But we're hopeful this year,
Yes,
the doctors will be there
yes.
big time, right, Terry?
Oh, yeah.
We were hoping now that we have the date that we can start getting the word out,
Right.
We're,
let people know and vendors.
yeah, the list, or the stores that opened, did they see more traffic through with that? Do we know?
Yes.
They did. So I happened to be, I was at O'Hare's, and I met the owner there. I had not been to O'Hare's over there, maybe once, but we were talking to him about he's talking about his happy hour, and I think his happy hour is from like 3 to 6 during the week, and we said, well, you should really try to push that like an hour later, because from a pedestrian standpoint, I would have to get on a 4:45 train to get off at almost 6 o'clock. So he's really missing the boat there. So we told him to try to push that later if you could. And he was listening to us, and I think he wants to try to do stuff like that. So he may be a good person to, get involved with this, as well.
We actually asked if he wanted to be involved in this one before he moved over, but there's just a conflict of time and trying to get it all worked out, unfortunately. Because we said, you're going to be here soon, so do you want to start something? And
Right. For some of our businesses don't have the capability to keep food warm on the site.
Yeah.
And some do, so that was kind of an obstacle that we encountered when we were trying to get businesses to be food vendors.
Yeah. Well, we had success with the first one, so that should probably help.
Consider food trucks too, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Food trucks is a great idea, actually. It's really popular.
The one problem is we're in Cook County, so all the food trucks have to be registered within Cook County as well. So it makes it a little harder, obviously, because most of them we know would be from DuPage, so.
That list of vendors at Bartlett Fest, a big row of food stuff, those people are all, that were initially requested to be local vendors, but then it just went to whoever could fill up the tent. Do we know, is that a list of vendors that are available that are local? You know what I'm talking about? Inside the tent, the food vendors at Bartlett Fest. Yeah, 4th of July, yeah.
That's something different, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think anyone that wants to come in and set up, they're offered to local people, but whoever wants to come in can
First
fill it
come,
up.
first served.
Well, yeah, but there's a fee. It's not cheap to go into that tent.
Okay.
It's pretty expensive, actually, to be a vendor in that tent. But yeah, they aren't going to exclude anybody, but I think they certainly encourage local businesses to be involved as much as they want to, but local businesses may say, I'm not paying that, whatever it is, $1,500 or $1,000, or I don't know what it is exactly, but it's not free. So if a smaller business doesn't want to invest in a booth in that tent that you're talking about, they're not going to do it.
I see. Well, I didn't realize, I'm just saying, I'm thinking that it's kind of similar, you ask, and I didn't realize they had to pay fees. How similar would that be to requesting some local vendors to set up like that? It wouldn't cost them anything other than just getting their supplies out there and rigging their own tent and their facility.
There's a lot of liability waivers they have to sign. They have to have special insurance to not be at their own place, to be doing it off-site. And then they have to insure all their employees that are out here as well. So I do recall last time that Active Trans, they didn't charge actually that much for the food vendors.
Yeah, it was pretty minimal.
But it still deterred some of them that they didn't want to do it. And we said, well, ask for a waiver. Or, they were willing to work with them. They just didn't ask for a waiver.
Right. That's always more involved than you think. Huh?
Yeah.
Always is.
Yeah, because we pretty much said that we were going to be the ones finding the food vendors so that we could keep it all local the first year. And we had vendors that said they were going to come and didn't show. So, it's hard to kind of figure out what will entice businesses to do it. I think a lot of it was just because it was the first year and it was unknown how successful it was going to be. Are people just going to ride their bikes and then leave? So it kind of depends what their setup is.
Well, they got a good impression, right?
Yeah, the ones that were there, yes. So I think we would change the layout of where they were because they were kind of hidden. So we've kind of talked about changing the layout of the festival so that they'd be more visible. To make it more of an enticement for them for next year as well.
Okay. Any other questions concerning the Kickstand Classic by anyone on the committee? Staff have anything further to say on the Kickstand Classic? If not, we're moving on to the 6th point on the agenda, which would be the review of the complete streets concept for the village, which was laid out at the back of your packet here. Christy, do you have any comments on that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just kind of summarize everything that we've been talking about so far. As you know, we made a recommendation to approve the bicycle plan for Wayne Township. Part of that plan was the adoption of a complete streets policy, and that was also included as a recommendation in the transit-oriented development plan, the TOD plan, that was just recently adopted by the village board back in October. So we started discussing this a little bit at our past meeting, basically saying that it's something that the village would like, that staff would like to bring to the board, and say that we're making a commitment that we're planning for all users of streets. Now, this is something that we're kind of doing right now. When we look at plans, we do look to make sure that there's connections and stuff, and that we're doing bike paths where applicable and stuff like that. But this is making it a policy for the village so that it's on the books that we are making that commitment. The benefits of complete streets are decreasing transportation costs, improving public health, increasing safety, and those things obviously increase your property values and reducing emissions. So those are some of the benefits of it. It's something that's looked at when a new project comes forward. It's never us going back and saying, out of the blue, okay, we're going to be putting in a pedestrian crossing right here. It's when the projects come forward, we include it at that point in time. So there isn't a specific cost for a complete streets policy. It's something that would be tied into part of our capital budget when capital improvement project, when those types of transportation projects come up. So I can't give you a number on how much complete streets would cost. This is just a policy saying it's a commitment the village has made to walkers, to people that ride bikes, even for public transportation, and for motorists as well. So staff has done a lot of research, and we've read a lot of different policies that are out there. The one that we thought was one of the best was Oak Park, which was recognized as one of the best complete street policies by Smart Growth America. What's really positive about that one is that it does put in an exemption for if the cost to put in a specific item is so cost prohibitive for a project. So you'd have to look to see how many users would actually use this. So it kind of gives the village engineer or public works director, however we word it, village administrator in some case, the power to say, okay, I know that we could do this, but this is basically going to blow the budget. We just can't do it at this time. So that was the one that we wanted to kind of use as a framework. We thought that one worked best for us.
Yeah, it's really thorough, and it kind of goes to their point that there can't be one plan or one policy that fits everything absolutely. So this describes, hey, this is how we want to move forward, and reading through it, I mean, they really did a nice job.
Right. So it's not saying like we have to put a pedestrian bridge at every single intersection. I mean, it's not like that. It's taking a sensible approach to complete streets and saying what is the best thing to do for this project. For some of the intersections, it might just be like putting in a pork chop, so like a refuge island. So someone that's crossing, you cross the turn lane, then you stand at this pork chop where you're safe, and then you finish crossing. So it's things like that. It's not necessarily doing a bridge, which costs billions of dollars. It's looking at the different options. It's something IDOT already does as part of their review for any project that they have. So when they were looking at the Stearns Road intersection improvements, they have CMAP go through and look at it and review it to see if it's compliant with complete streets.
In that same vein, but a little off topic, Illinois Department of Transportation, are you aware of any Lake Street reconstruction plans? Specifically that bridge between Elgin, forget the name of the road, and Villa Olivia, because you can get anywhere in Bartlett, but you can't get across that stretch unless you want to walk or ride upon Route 20.
Right. I haven't seen anything specifically for IDOT at Naperville and Lake Street.
Okay.
I have probably 2 years ago seen a plan for improvements at Oak and Lake.
Okay.
And I didn't see the initial plans. I just saw CMAP's recommendations. They had forwarded those onto us on what they suggested. And that included like the pork chop island I was talking about to give people a safe haven before they make the full crossing.
I presume at some point Lake Street's going to probably be 6 lanes, and in that development, if they're thinking about this, they'll be thinking about bikers and walkers. Right now, it's non-existent, so.
Yeah, Lake Street,
Some future user.
Just to add to that, you guys are familiar with I-390 extension?
Right.
We just met with IDOT last week, or within the last 2 weeks. They're finishing not even a phase 1, it's just a feasibility study for 390 being extended all the way to Shales Parkway, which would include actually grade separation of Shales Parkway and 20, and redoing that whole bridge over the tracks. But the funding for that whole project is in excess of $200 million. So it's not even, the phase 1 isn't even funded, so it's years out, but that's the only thing that we've seen as far as them doing anything.
Is that part of an expansion of Lake Street then?
Yeah, it would actually be.
It used to be a separate road in early plans, but now it merges back into Lake Street at some point?
Yeah, it kind of comes down through that Hanover portion up just east of the Von Newport area, and IDOT actually already has a lot of the right-of-way.
Where would it cut back in?
It cuts back in
North Avenue.
up near Park,
All the way over there?
somewhere over there. I think that's where it is. I have the
At one time, they were going to take out the area where the White Hen is, or
yeah, it doesn't go that,
11.
doesn't go that far.
Comes out.
And during
The plan does show Oak being realigned to Bartlett as one of the projects.
That's back on board then.
And then Dan, during that feasibility study, there are bike paths on there.
It seems like everything they're building now does have it.
Yeah, and we have made some comments because they do switch back and forth across Lake Street a lot on those plans. So basically, what they've said is they've taken our comments into account. So whatever that's worth.
They did add all those paths there in like not Greenbrook, I think it's Greenbrook and Lake Street there. There's now a path that goes in the middle of Lake Street on the island there, like from where,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, like where the gas station is going to like where Caputo's.
Well, you can get across there, and that's,
Get across, you can walk through that island and even crossing back over Lake Street to get where
in the
Greenbrook is.
past, you wouldn't even be able to get across there.
Yeah, so they obviously are taking that, and they've been doing that as well.
Past designs, it would have all been concrete barrier.
Ultimately, a lot of the complete streets and that kind of stuff boil down to how much money we'll have to be able to implement portions of it. But as we wind this down, any other comments or?
I think it's a good policy that Oak Park did, and I think we should scratch out Oak Park and put Bartlett in there and use this as kind of a guideline as we go forward, filling in those gaps that we were talking about earlier that we see. And this will give us a nice way to go about
Are we
that.
at the point where we make the recommendation to the board to consider this, or?
As far as complete streets?
Yeah, that ordinance.
This policy.
So what we said in here was our recommendation was if the committee so chooses to direct staff to create a draft ordinance, and then at that point, we would bring it back to you guys for review to formally say, yes, we recommend this policy, and then move it on to the board.
Okay.
That's a good plan.
Do we need a motion for that, I guess?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then there would be anyone what?
Sure, I move what Christie's just said. That we accept her idea, her plan,
Well, we
to
would,
redraft
Just to draft an ordinance for it.
Find it in
ordinance
place.
for our approval at the next meeting.
okay, so there's a motion on the floor to, for the staff to look into a feasibility study of complete streets, is that what we're saying?
It would be for us to, just to draft a complete streets policy
Okay.
for your review.
So there's a motion on the floor for the staff to complete a complete streets policy. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second?
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. Can we call the roll?
Jerry Witt,
Yes?
Joe Stacy,
Yes.
Bruce Hendricks, Dan Palmer,
Yes.
Mike Hammer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that,
We've got Jessica Ortega.
we have, yeah. So we're gonna get to with that, I've going to transition. We talked about the complete streets, and with the complete streets, it's a. I've been talking with the village administrator about the possibility of having motor fuel tax coming to the bike committee as a way to fund some of the things that we want to do. And I know that she's talked to Dan, and Dan, can you give us a little bit of an update on what might be available fund-wise for us to look at and potentially do things?
Right, well, right now, what we have in the budget for this coming fiscal year, we actually already do have some bike-related items. We still have the Kohler Field connections to the state park on the list, which is pending state funding. As soon as we get that funding released, we will get those two connections made. We also have Stearns Road culvert, if you know, right by the school, just west of the school, where we've got that little steel bridge right off of the road on the north side. We're actually looking to remove that bridge, extend the box culvert to the north, to the north right-of-way line. We'll put in curb and actually move the path a little bit away from the road as much as we can, and get rid of that steel bridge, which I think will be a good connection to, or good way to get rid of it, because that structure is too close to the road. You've got that guardrail that has been hit twice this year already, well, in 16. So the sooner we can get rid of that whole system, the better. We're going out to bid with that this spring and hopefully planning it to be done while school's out. So say June, July, August timeframe, hopefully we'll be able to get that done. We also, as far as the budget goes, we have money in our, we share maintenance with the park district. We each contribute, and we typically would go out to bid and get a contractor to do a stretch of bike path. What we're hoping to accomplish this next year is our crews have a paving machine, and we'd like to try to do some bike paths ourselves. So if we take, like right now, I think we've been budgeting $20,000 between the park district and the village, which doesn't get us a whole lot of bike paths. Long term, we'd like to see that number go up, but if we can get $20,000 of asphalt as opposed to a contractor that has to use his equipment, labor, and asphalt, we think we can get a lot more miles of bike path or feet of bike path accomplished with our crews with that $20,000. And I think I'm proposing, we'll see where it goes, but to actually increase that a little bit so that we can do more maintenance. Because right now, I know we have gaps that need to be filled and all that, but we really need to focus on maintenance because we've got a lot of, as you saw on those maps, we've got a lot of bike paths, but there's a lot that need some work. So that's where we were aiming in the budget process. As far as MFT funds, we are using MFT on like the Stearns culvert. That's all being paid for by MFT. We could utilize some of that, if we wanted to bump up the maintenance funding, we could use MFT fund. My only fear for this next year is because it's the guy's first time doing it. We're not sure how much we'll be able to get done. So we might be able to bump up the budget, but whether we would go through it all gets down to how much time our guys have with everything else they have to do to get bike path maintenance done. But that's kind of where we're looking. But we can use MFT funds for maintenance of the bike paths.
Which I think
the other area that we're looking that is MFT, not necessarily bike related, but Rizika Field, we're looking for a parking lot. You guys are probably familiar with the gravel parking lot over in the ComEd right away. We're hoping to get that paved this next year. So,
well, it brings up an interesting point with the whole paving of the Rizika area and the contractor we would use, and put in the potential to look at how inclined I don't even know if we could. We probably couldn't because of bid issues. But I'm thinking, tagging in, somebody gets that contract to do a parking lot like that, you would certainly hope that maybe you could tag onto that for bike path, extensions, asphalts, that sort of thing. I don't know, probably not the way it works, obviously. We
could put any of that on. That's the time to do it because when they're bidding for that parking lot, if we knew we wanted to get, whatever sections of bike path done, that's probably the best time to do it to get their pricing. So that's a possibility. We just have to get that, bring that to the board and see how much they want to do. But yeah, that's an option.
And we're also using, if they have access to wherever, if they don't make their asphalt, if they purchase their asphalt, maybe being able to negotiate where we have access to, if you're going to have the village staff or the maintenance guys do it, then maybe we have access to purchase asphalt at their cost or from their provider.
Right.
Or something like that. Do we have do do we have, with these maps, do we have an idea of what's our priorities for getting done?
That's that capital program that we're trying to rate all the paths. Hopefully we'll have that done soon, that we'll be able to do that. I think the discussion when we were meeting with the Park District was we've been doing the pipeline bike path that kind of runs southwest from Stearns and South Bartlett. We've been doing portions of that. I think there's still some left there, so I think we were going to try to get some of that, get the rest of that done. I know Newport is in need. I mean, Terry and I and Christy went for a bike ride, and there's plenty of bike paths.
Oh, yeah.
It's just resurfacing type stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the tree roots and everything, you get the cracks and all that.
Yep.
Try to get a nice new layer down to make it smooth again.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that, like do you rate it and say like this is number one priority, number two, number three?
Right, that's the way, that's the plan, is to have all those bike paths that you saw have a kind of a ranking on them, and then we'll take the lowest ones first and start working out the list.
So is that map something that this?
We'll bring it, as soon as we have it ready, we'll bring it to the board.
Okay, great.
Guys, yep.
Thank you.
That's going to really be where we can then go to the board or look for funding that we can use for if it's the motor fuel funding, tax funding, then that will be something we can really utilize to get some of these things done, which that's ultimately what we want, is to have funds to be able to do it. Right now, we can plan, but it's hard to do anything with no money. Okay, any other questions?
I just want to mention those asphalt repairs are so discouraging because they age so quickly, with the tree roots and the bumps and the cracks. We have roots in my yard that track the surface because there's so much clay in this area, and the tree guy cut the roots off and just pulled them out of the ground. And, I don't know if they do maintenance on a bike path, if there's a machine, if it'd be cost prohibitive, but to eliminate the root growth underneath, that could be lanced on each side, the path would last a lot longer because the root just gets fatter and fatter and fatter and bows the paths. That's the problem with all the paths, really. I don't know if that's even feasible to think about eliminating that growth underneath the paths. Kill all the trees.
Right.
I remember we talked.
The problem is they're going to just keep coming back. I mean, it's a struggle that we're going to deal with.
Yeah.
You cut them and they're going to come back. But we'll see if there's some other method to try to make it last longer or whatever. We can look at that.
Yeah.
We talked about it. I don't think the last meeting, but the meeting before, where it's like if we have X amount of dollars, and to really do it right, you have to rip it up, put in the material underneath it, and it would take up most of the cost. So you're only going to get a small amount of the stuff done. So you have one little section that's done really well, and then the rest are still struggling. We have so much that need that it's almost like you have to kind of put a Band-Aid over it for now until we can get more funds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can move on. We'll move on into the old and new business, but before we do that, I would like to invite Jessica Ortega if you can make your way up to the podium and just, right there, and state your name and address and who you represent, and then we'd love to hear what you have to say.
All right, great. Thank you. I'm Jessica Ortega. I'm from the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. I'm a landscape architect supervisor in the Department of Planning. And Terry asked me to come here today and give you all a little bit of update on the North Central DuPage Regional Trail, the segment that we're working on through Pratt Swain Woods. I actually brought a couple maps that I could pass around if that's all right with you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Certainly. Okay, so as you probably know, the North Central DuPage Regional Trail, it's a major regional trail we've been working on cooperatively with many other agencies in DuPage County for quite a long time. this segment that you've got on the map in front of you is kind of the last piece to go in place now that that County Farm Road Bridge is in place. So this segment here is going to be about a 1.5-mile trail connection through Prattswain Woods. It's going to connect to Forest Preserve Drive here near in the Woodland Hills neighborhood, and then go along Munger Road and connect up to the Illinois Prairie Path Elgin Branch near the corner of Smith and Munger Roads. So this is going to be, you know, kind of that typical limestone trail that you're used to seeing in the forest preserves and the prairie path. It's going to be that kind of trail, 10 foot wide, mostly on forest preserve property. There are some existing horse trails within Prattswain Woods as kind of that northwest quadrant of Munger and Army Trail. Those are going to remain separate as grass horse trails, and this will be a new trail in addition. And horseback riders, you know, bikers, runners, walkers, all welcome on our limestone multi-purpose trails. We previously discussed a couple different options with Bartlett staff. Most of, you know, who are sitting at this table were there at that meeting. And we had a couple different options. And what you're seeing in front of you is kind of the direction we're moving right now. So again, the path will be on the west side of Munger Road. It'll cross Forest Preserve Drive at Munger Road. It'll also cross Army Trail at the intersection of Army Trail and Munger. And then it'll kind of come around and connect up to the Prairie Path at Smith Road. We also talked to the Village of Wayne's engineer, and they're interested in possibly us providing a little neighborhood connector to either Warwick or Bradford Parkway, kind of down on the southern path there, which would just be kind of a way for the people in that community to jump on the trail easily. And we also talked with DuPage County about, you know, how might this connection look at the Illinois Prairie Path. So as you probably know, the Illinois Prairie Path crosses Smith Road on an angle right here, and it's not at the intersection, which is really not ideal, and the county is interested in kind of doing what they can to improve their unsignalized mid-block crossings. So what we've been talking about with them is, you know, can we use this project as an opportunity to maybe make some improvements there? So there are some challenges down here at this corner. There's some ComEd right-of-way that you can kind of see the double green line sort of by the Illinois Prairie Path. That's all ComEd property. So we are looking at some different options, like can we keep the trail out of their property, or are we going to have to go into some sort of lease agreement with them to install the trail? So we're kind of working through those details right now. So we're in the phase 1 study portion of the project. We did get some grant funding for construction of the trail back in 2015, and we have until 2021 to expend those funds. But right now our schedule is we want to get the phase 1 design approval through IDOT. We're going to have to go through their entire federal aid process since we got these grant funds, so it makes the projects take a little bit longer because you're going through the IDOT process. We're looking for phase 1 design approval from them in September of this year. And then our target would be a construction letting of September of 2018 for the project and completion in 2019. Is there any questions I can answer about that?
Yeah, at one time there was that idea of back up here in Woodland Hills following that pipeline, and rather than coming out of Forest Preserve Drive. Mm-hmm. Have you eliminated that idea?
Yeah, we've pretty much eliminated that idea because it would likely involve us then doing a mid-block crossing of Munger to get over onto the west side of Munger Road. In addition, on this plan, you can kind of see these light blue blobs that kind of shows you all the wetlands that are existing right now in that area, and you know we'd probably end up with a lot of wetland impacts. In addition, that trail on the gas pipeline is a private trail, and we're looking at trying to keep most of the trail on public land. So I know in the past that Bartlett went ahead and made the decision to put the North Central Regional Trail on the roadway in Woodland Hills Road, and so that's kind of where we're connecting up to, is at the roadway.
So then it would almost be about 10 foot off Munger Road, most of the length of it or so.
Yeah, in Prattswain Woods there are some areas of pretty high ecological value, and so we are doing our best to try and keep the impacts of the trail closer to the road, make the connection from A and B, but still try and provide people with a nice trail experience So, yeah, we're looking at, are there ways that we can, maybe move the trail alignment, kind of wiggle and waggle it a little bit to kind of improve that trail experience.
I know you mentioned it, but I don't think I heard you. When's the proposed start date for something like this?
We'd be looking at a construction letting of September of 2018, so that would be, when the project would go out to bid through IDOT's process.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
When I ride through there, Jessica, I sometimes think, as the trail comes down along Munger, and before it gets to Bradford, you see a tree line there. Mm-hmm. I'm always thinking, well, that would be a great place to cut the trail, rather than going all the way down to Smith, but cut it over directly to the trail.
Mm-hmm.
Would.
Yeah.
Has that been looked at?
I guess, kind of the concerns, as I briefly mentioned, is that block of forest preserve right there. Our natural resources staff have been working really hard to, really improve the habitat of that area for, different plants, animals, birds, et cetera. And so where we can, we try to keep trails from, bisecting areas that might limit the habitat of, different plants or animals. So that's kind of the balance that, we need to have in the forest preserve. We want to provide recreational amenities and, get people out and enjoying nature, but, we want to also wear our conservation and preservation hat at the same time.
Yeah, okay. Well, certainly fixing that intersection at Smith and Munger will be a big boost to all the local bicycle riders who ride on the road rather than ride on the trails, because that's a real busy section there.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
Yeah. Looks good. While we have Jessica here, just ask a question about the County Farm Road Bridge.
Sure, if I can answer
timing
it.
for the grand opening.
Grand opening. I did ask our engineer yesterday, since I knew I was coming to this meeting, kind of what the schedule was, and they are pretty much in winter shutdown mode right now, and the trail wasn't able to be completed before the winter weather hit, so it's really going to be up to the weather, what kind of spring we have, what kind of winter we have, but they'll be right on it as soon as weather breaks to try and get that final trail surface in. So he was suspecting possibly May sometime, but it's really going to depend kind of what our weather gives us this winter.
I know they always said the bridge is the easy part. Getting through Mallard Lake is kind of a challenge. So
Right, yeah, a lot going on.
Well, everybody's going to be anxious and hoping that May comes sooner.
Right, yeah, well, who knows with this weather. Unseasonably warm, so yeah, we'll see.
And the County Farm Bridge is actually something under old business, new business, so there's actually pictures of it in your packet as well.
Yeah, we just ran out there like 2 weeks ago, I think. We cut to get around it, but it's nice. It looks great. They did a great job with it, and we're excited about it. I mean, crossing that county farm as a pedestrian, it's like Frogger. I mean, it's not safe, so it's awesome. And
Great,
it gives us access to that Mallard Lake. It's great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jessica. Also with that, I'm going to just jump around, but with this exact segment of the trail, there's pictures of the Share the Road signs, which is actually on Munger Road right along this area as well. So to show that Dan was able to get those up and ready to go.
Yeah, great job, Dan. Those signs have made a big difference. In fact, the Village of Wayne was supposed to be talking about those signs on their section of Munger Road at their meeting this past Tuesday night. I don't know if they got to discussing it or approving it, but they were looking to also have those signs over there. So they're on Smith, they're on our portion of Munger, there's some on Powys. We're getting more towns starting to put those signs up for the road riders. Thank you, Jessica.
Okay. Perfect. Anything else under old or new business as far as I think we kind of quickly.
I asked my wife about the sign. She says 3 feet. Does that mean 3 feet from the sign? I go, oh, it's like 3 feet from
Yes.
from the bicycle rider.
3 feet from the bicycle rider.
Yeah, she is. I said, how'd you see it that way? I wonder how many people saw it that way, 3 feet from the sign. So,
So.
Well, I'm sure you'll help educate her.
Yeah.
So I think we've had a chance to look at the signage on the back from the last meeting and this meeting, and the County Farm Bridge. Well, that was a good synopsis of that, and the complete streets. Is there an update on the TOD plan that we need to hear?
Like I said, it was adopted by the village board at their October meeting. We attached a couple pages with the complete streets packet of some of the recommendations that they made as far as transportation. And on the task one was encourage walking, biking, and transit use in Bartlett. And the complete streets, adopt a complete streets policy is one of the items on there. So we're moving along and following the plan. You want to have a plan that you at least look to, and it doesn't just sit on a shelf and collect dust. So obviously as part of that, encourage complete streets training for public works staff and community development staff. Really, as part of that, I will be going to complete streets meeting at the end of the month downtown.
31st.
On the 31st, yes. So we're moving in that direction. So just wanted to let the committee know about that. And then the Complete Streets Consortium that's at the end of your packet was something, Terry, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, you had mentioned Smart Growth America. They kind of got the ball rolling on all of this complete streets idea and grown it phenomenally. You know, there's almost 1,000 communities now with complete streets. So they've now come up with another way of trying to encourage continued expansion of the program, and they've come up with this idea of a consortium series where 3 or more communities or units of government get together to continue to develop a combined complete streets policy. And they've got a lot of nice carrots. The one thing, though, for this first round of granting, they're looking for a February 2nd deadline, which, of course, is impossible.
Right.
But they've got really good ideas in here, and it made me think of Bartlett, Elgin, South Elgin as being, maybe we should start thinking about formally reaching out to those two communities to begin some discussions. We already talked about down West Bartlett Road where it's unincorporated, it's Elgin. I mean, we've got a common boundary with Elgin, we've got a common boundary with South Elgin. There's areas that we would like to expand, agree with. South Elgin has a bike plan. Elgin has a very well-developed bike pedestrian committee, so there are communities that have already begun doing what we've begun doing. We're in the same school district. I mean, half of our kids, high school age, go to South Elgin High School. They have no way to walk, bike, or roll to school. Half of our kids have to be driven to a school in South Elgin. So, you know, it makes sense to combine with them and think about ways that we can grow a complete streets idea together. And this consortium grant, it's going to come around again. And as you read through it, you see, well, what have you done to show that we should give you the money? And if we start developing a relationship now, maybe in 2018, we would be perfectly aligned to put it in an application to say, well, we got a complete streets policy. We're working with these 3 communities. We're going forward. Yeah, we would like to get $10,000 from you to do something, or $20,000 to do something. So I would just like us to think about how we might reach out to some other communities to work together. And this is just something that's out there as a good possibility. It's a nice carrot out there for the future.
something to look into, or as we progress along, something to certainly keep in mind. I don't see it as something we would just say no, we wouldn't try it, but obviously first things first, but.
Sure.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the committee?
Yeah, of course. Of course. You know, we saw how great the Kickstand Classic was. I mean, it doesn't mean that there aren't other things that we can do to encourage bicycling, running within Bartlett. I mean, the Park District does their apple cider run, which is very successful. The Lions have their running thing on Labor Day. Well, I think it was moved a week back, and it seemed to me as I'm out there watching the runners go by that there were a lot fewer participating this year, maybe because they moved the date. But encouraging more events might be something that we might want to consider. You know, there's National Night Out, the bike ride with the village, very poorly attended, very poorly attended. You know, maybe it's just the wrong time on that weekend. Maybe some other part of National Night Out, we could encourage some kind of biking, running event. Hey, maybe there's a bike run relay race through town. But other kinds of things. And I'm just thinking that, you know, maybe we might want to, as Joe says, we got an active town. Maybe there's some other things we can do to harness more community involvement into these types of events. So I just wanted to mention that. And also May is Bike Month. It's coming up. It'll be coming up really fast, and we've always had a nice village board proclamation on May is Bike Month. And in Bike Month, May is also the Ride of Silence, which is an international ride commemorating all the people who've been killed while riding their bicycles. It's in all 50 states. It's on all 7 continents, including Antarctica. They have rides on the 3rd Wednesday of May every year. So it's something we might want to consider promoting.
Remember, I showed up late for the first
Yeah.
Ride of Silence, and I was riding with a guy and said, "You guys aren't very friendly." I mean, really, how you doing?
Yeah, the whole idea is when you start, you don't say another word until you...
It's really an odd environment, but it's cool once you figure it out.
Sorry, I just got that
There's
one.
plenty of time. There's plenty of time at Pasta Mia to talk after the ride.
Yeah.
Okay, I would ask the committee if it had any more questions, but if I do, Terry, we'll keep going.
I do have one more. We're supposed to go till 4:30. I have a concern about...
Since when?
I have a concern about Stearns Road and 59, the IDOT project. We are putting our bicyclists at risk in this project. So just as a couple examples, I think it was August. It was really a nice day, about 1:30 in the afternoon, when left turns are allowed to go into the Walgreens. The village board just said, hey, take all the left turns you want, unless it's rush hour. Well, I'm riding along, and the traffic is all backed up at the stoplight, way past, well, almost to, is it Baintree? Is the first street, I think? All right, it was backed up. So I decided, well, I'm going to get up on the bike path, because usually I'm on the road. So I go up on the bike path so I can get to the stoplight quicker. So as I'm approaching the driveway into Walgreens, there's a semi in the right lane stopped right before the driveway, nice long semi. So I'm coming along, and at the same time I'm approaching the driveway, there's a car who's making a left turn off of Stearns into the driveway. Now, I can't see her, and she can't see me because the semi is blocking our view. So as she turns in, very cautiously, as I very cautiously approach the driveway, we both stop about 3 feet from a crash. Now, would a kid riding be that cautious? I don't know. The one thing I know is if a bicyclist gets knocked down, you got an ambulance, a fire truck, 3 fire cars or police cars, and about 4 hours of a closed intersection, or at least an impeded intersection.
So that's the problem. What's the solution?
Well, let me just interject here. That whole intersection is changing. You realize that, don't you?
Well, yes, there's going to be 8 lanes in each direction.
Yeah, but you won't be allowed to make a left-hand turn going north onto Stearns the way it currently does now. Not Stearns, but into the shopping center that you're talking about. That won't be happening after the IDOT changes the configuration there. Plus, the traffic won't back up as far because of the 2 left-hand turn lanes in all directions. And coming east on Stearns, you'll have to go down and make a U-turn to come back and go west into the plaza area there. So that's going to change that configuration.
So left turns will be illegal.
They're illegal now, actually.
No, they're not.
There's a solid yellow line there.
No,
You can
still
make
make a
Turn
left-hand
across the
turn
yellow line,
and-
you can't cross it to pass.
Right. Yeah, Dan.
The eastbound to northbound left turn into the Walgreens driveway is going to be prohibited.
Say that again?
No left turn. The eastbound to northbound left turn into Walgreens driveway will be prohibited with signage. And actually, the way they're doing the pork chop, if you will, in the middle of that driveway is going to prohibit the left turn in. But after much discussion at the board and the property owner of that business, we are going to permit left turns out of that driveway to go eastbound Stearns on off-peak periods. So morning peak, the left turn will not be allowed. In the evening peak, the left turn will not be allowed. But at midnight, when there's no cars there, it's something that we're definitely going to monitor because that is, with the added lanes, is going to be a tough movement, say during lunch hour, when it could still be, will likely still be permitted at that time. It's something that we need to monitor and see what happens. I mean, if we continually have accidents, then I think we'll be approaching that issue again. But right now, the left turn will be banned during the morning and evening peak.
Okay. Now on eastbound west of 59, as you're coming from the state park, you're on that nice shoulder until you get to Linfield. I think that's the name of the street. And at that point, the shoulder ends, so you start riding in the right-hand lane. And as you come up that hill, at some point, there's going to be a right turn lane starting.
Into where?
At 59, you're talking about?
Yeah, there's going to be
There will be a right
lane
turn
on the
lane,
59, and at some point, they're going to feather that in somewhere.
Pretty much by the, would be like the Home Depot
The first driveway,
rear access or whatever.
rear access one,
All the improvements pretty much.
start right there.
I didn't recall that there was going to be a dedicated right-hand turn by the mobile station there.
Yeah.
There will be right turn, on every leg, there'll be a right turn lane,
Is there going to be? Okay.
2 through lanes, 2 dual lefts.
Okay, all right, I didn't remember there being the right-hand turn. We talked about it, I should have remembered, but,
So as you're riding, all of a sudden, there will be one right-hand turn lane on your right side. You'll be in the right hand of the 2 through lanes, and then there'll be 2 left turn lanes over the other side, and there will be cross-traffic between the 2 shopping centers, people coming in and going out, doing rights and lefts and crossing all that. So as you're riding your bicycle, you're in that right-hand lane with traffic going on all sides of you, and you're going on through across 59 and continuing on your merry journey.
Terry, I believe there's a bike path going in with these road improvements.
Okay, well, that would be good.
I'm not so sure where it starts, but I can look for you, because I remember, because Sonic came in for that variance, I believe there's a bike path.
I know there's one
which
on the
was in
east
way.
side going north-south. I can't remember if it's on the north or south side, I don't.
I'll check that for you and let you know.
Okay, yeah, because IDOT indicated to me that they didn't have space to put one in.
Maybe it's just a sidewalk
On
then.
the south side,
I'll have to
that's where I
look.
think it might not be on the south side, but
It's all,
we do have the plans, because that project is
They're doing
going
engineering
out the
on it
bid
already.
in March.
Yeah, I thought I saw them in the plans, that's why I'm going to look for him.
If not, it would be nice if just a little further back where the shoulder ends, they broke the curb and continued a side path along 59 up until you got to the shopping center, because then you could cut through the shopping center.
Well, I hate to say it, Terry, but the long and short of it is, unless you have some particular pull with IDOT, there's very little that we're going to get accomplished through Bartlett. That's just the way it is. IDOT's basically come in and said, here's what we're going to do. We just want to appraise you of what's going to happen, and we're letting you know what's going on. Other than that, I don't think you're going to get much change unless you're personal friends with the governor and you're going to twist his arm a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think at any rate, we should be able to make a stand on something.
It's in design now. They've already presented it to the board. I mean, they're not going to alter their plans at this point.
Yeah, like I said, the plans are done, and it's going out the bid with a March letting date and construction to start this spring, summer, so.
Yeah.
I'll take a look and see.
Okay.
I can't remember. I know there's bike
Yeah,
paths
they're
on it, because I think the village is cost sharing in some of that work,
Yeah.
but I can't remember which side it's on in that.
Well, I just wanted to make you aware that
Where
it'll be a little bit dicey for some bicycle riders. Because they get knocked down, like I say, you got 2 fire trucks, 3 policemen, and 5 hours of stopped-up traffic.
Lots of
To
accidents.
deal with.
Lots of accidents at that intersection right now. That's the whole point of reconfiguring it like they're doing. So hopefully there'll be less car accidents, and hopefully that wouldn't contribute to bike accidents as well. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Not for me.
Get the new
Let's order out pizza.
We have. We've gone through it.
You sound like you're a working man. You're a working man.
I hate to make the motion myself.
I will motion. I will go ahead. I will motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think you should vote no, Terry.
Okay.
Motion is to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion. Meeting adjourned.